Welcome, Wargamers. Join your hosts, Bonko and Monte, two Canadian wargaming enthusiasts, as we explore all aspects of tabletop wargaming. We roll dice, talk tactics, share hobby hacks, and explore new tabletop systems, all on the Trident Wargaming Podcast.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Trident Wargaming.
Yo yo!
We're back at it, episode 3, and today we got some bolt action. So, kicking it off, as usual, we'll go through some hobby stuff, and then we'll go through some bolt action topics that we want to talk about. So, World of Bolt Action. Anything new for yourself, Bill?
Those Tamiya German tanks I picked up a little while back. I haven't done a whole lot. I did throw decals on my half track finally.
Nice.
Been a little bit in the making, but yeah. Other than that, it's been a little low key for me. I've just been reading some stuff online and going through my army book and trying to put some of the, I guess, real world experience that I've got from playing the games into making some lists now. So
Nice. That's awesome.
yeah, that part's been good.
Yeah, you've gotten a couple of games underneath your belt now, right? And
yeah.
So and like overall, how are you finding the game itself compared to what you're used to, like with Heresy and 40K and that kind of stuff?
It's pretty good overall, I have to admit. There are some very interesting different mechanics, one being that alternate activations, or the blind activations, I guess, in this case. They are pretty neat to be able to, you come up with a plan, but even the best plans can get kind of thrown to shit, after a few couple dice grabs, and you're like, wow, he's pulled 4 dice and I still haven't gone yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So helps keep you on your toes, though.
Oh, for sure. You're always thinking about what's going to happen or what can happen or what am I going to do now. So
yeah.
I know myself just recently had a game with Jason there that has been on the show there a few times last year, and yeah, it was a good match. He ended up winning actually by 2 points, but the battle was good. It was pretty clean fighting. We were actually playing German on Germans, and it was the battlefield wasn't as littered with terrain as usual, but it was fun regardless, and we had good times and good discussions about the game and whatnot. Other than that, I was able to actually train a couple of new guys to the community, doing the demo game. They brought their own armies. They haven't played very much, but I was able to kind of show them through the ropes and what does what. So that was pretty cool. It's always good to see more players coming into the game. And other than that, just kind of keeping my eye out on what's coming out, what's being released. Of course, they ended up releasing the new Italian box sets, which I was able to get one, so I'll gonna have to jump on doing those unboxing videos here soon enough. And there's also the War Games Atlantic boxes of French that I got, so there's another video there. And Warlords coming out with some tanks for the Italians, so there'll be a lot more stuff coming down. And yeah, they've just kind of been pumping out just little news tidbits here and there of different things for their games. So but for bolt action, I think the Italians are really on the top of the list for the beginning of this year, which is pretty cool. They needed something. They needed something new. They needed some new miniatures as well, which is good. So and then for myself, really just once January is over, after getting prepped for upcoming tournament for a different system. It'll be definitely deep diving into some bolt action to get some forces finished and possibly some new forces done up to show you guys, right? So, and also roll some dice a bit more with Bill here. Get his Americans on the field.
Oh yeah, they're ready.
So, and speaking of your Americans, I know one of our topics in the episode here, it's kind of relating to Bill's army.
It is,
and it has to do with options and some costs of just upgrades and weapons and stuff for units. But it's with the Americans and with any other nation, they all have their special rules, right? But this one kind of really shines for what Bill and me were talking about before. So I'll let Bill go into this one for what he had in mind. But yeah, when you're going through like the options of weapons in your units, and I know Bill tends to really analyze certain things, right, and then plays and then realizes certain things too, and like, no, you know what, I like this better. So yeah, we'll give it to you, Bill. Like the SMG.
Well, yeah. So kicking off, I've been noticing when I first built my squads, right, and I'm running plain Jane U.S. infantry. I'm just rocking the plain Jane army. So I was taking the SMG on my NCO. I'm rocking usually 10-man squad, so I've got 8 rifles and a bar in there. And my list was primarily made around mid-war, so 1943. But as I'm playing, I find mid-war to late is kind of where everybody's jam seems to be, and locally anyways. And going through some of these weapon options, like, this SMG, I was talking to Andy, I'm like, I don't think the SMG is worth it, man. I think it's kind of a waste. And he was like, what? Right? I was like,
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, okay, 2 shots at 12 inches is nice, but for my Americans specifically here, and I think it really depends on the nation you play, but for my US, being able to move and fire without penalty with my rifles and bars, I just see it as I'm missing a shot every turn because that SMG just does not have the reach. And I really like the idea of being able to move up and pull back and kind of draw the enemy out into my machine gun teams, or draw them into more rifle shots. And like over the course of a game, because I'm usually running 2 or 3 infantry squads, that's 2-3 turns in, that's an extra 9 shots that I'm kind of missing out. And it's just, I think with every shot, every dice roll that you're making on squads, you are that much closer to pinning out or doing damage to the enemy. So I'm really starting to see SMGs not being worth the points, considering it got me looking at late war, like veteran infantry squads. And I think moving forward, I'll try and build my army around using those vet squads. Running double bars obviously is a huge advantage, and then still having 8 rifles. For what you're paying though for an SMG, in my opinion, it's 3 points. You're better off spending the points on getting another bar, right, because bars are 5 points each. And I think you're better off paying for tough fighters instead of the SMG. It's just you're getting better, longer range, consistent firepower throughout the game. You're able to move up, move back, shift your squads wherever you need to go, and you're not missing a beat at all. 24 inches is a really nice reach, especially with your rifles, and being able just to kind of have a very good presence on the board. Like I said, running 3 squads, you can really kind of dictate where some stuff is going to happen. I really think they're a better bang for your buck, so to speak.
So, so your unit is able to get tough fighters.
Veteran infantry can, yes.
Okay, so veteran. So
yeah.
So your cost for your unit is more, anyways, as a veteran, and then it's what is it? 2 points for
1 point per
point?
dude.
Okay,
so,
1 point's pretty good.
Yeah, like 10-man unit. Okay, 10-man unit, all with tough fighters and with 2 bars, isn't actually much at all. It's let me just grab it here. It's 100 and it's 150 points.
That's not bad
for a 10-man squad. Like, it's not horrible.
And what's the SMG cost for you in that unit?
SMG is 3 points each.
And how many of those can you have in the unit?
In the vet one, you can take one on the NCO, and then you can have up to 3 more.
Okay, so only 4 guys can have it.
Yeah.
Compared to all of them having it.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, in that case, I agree with you, for sure. A normal, like, okay, for example, here's the kicker for me, where I can disagree, because there's a lot of armies that can get the SMG, and it's usually on their NCO, and they don't have that option of tough fighters normally, right? Now, having that one extra little tough fighter in that unit, when you get to close combat, if that happens, you win it by 1, you win the combat. So in my eyes, it's like, I always throw it in there for that reason. When I'm moving around, like, I'm getting a -1 with my rifles anyways, whereas you're not, right? So I can see an advantage for you in thinking that way and going with that. And in some of my armies, I always include it in there because I tend to get into combat, and it could help, but it's extra points too, right? Like,
it is for sure.
Unfortunately, my French army, this is where it gets a little weird. My French army, they are allowed to have an SMG in their unit, and this is where I don't think it's worth it for myself. They are allowed an SMG in my unit, but first I have to buy an extra trooper with like a pistol, and then that pistol gets upgraded to an SMG. But that guy carrying the SMG is my loader for my LMG, so he's not firing at all, right?
That kind of seems weird.
If my LMG is firing, he's not firing, which to me is kind of weird. So in a sense, it's really almost not worth it, right? You might as well just keep the pistol. But as you were talking there about your SMG, it dawned on me. I was like, you know what? The British. So, and I know, Bill, you haven't really seen the British too much, but the British get to take these national characteristics for their army. There's a whole bunch of different ones that they can pick, right? So they have one called Rapid Fire, and what it is in the army that has the special rule, all rifle armed regular and veteran infantry units roll bonus dice when shooting. Okay, so for every 3 men shooting, they get to roll 1 extra dice. So 4 riflemen would roll 1 extra dice, right?
Yeah.
So you start taking SMGs, you start losing that extra shot at that 24-inch range. So essentially, for every 3-4 guys or whatever, you're getting an extra shot. So for them, like, I'd probably go all rifles, right? And I think that because in the book later on, you start seeing the later units to have multiple SMGs.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rapid fire rule for them would be really good for that. So, but overall, I mean, I also do have Soviets who have full squads of SMGs. So that's a different story, though, right? Like you're literally building a full squad of SMGs, so they're going to put some pain on something in combat. But range-wise, if they make it there, sure, probably put them in a transport or something. So
that's the whole thing, right? Is you got to get in there. And my personal play style, I really like to. I don't like getting my hands dirty. I like to, strike out at range and really take advantage of.
He likes fighting in the trenches.
I do. I like I like shooting. I like being able to shoot and lay overlapping fields of fire, especially comboing up an MMG team, supporting my veteran infantry squads, and I just trying to
concentrate
get into
fire
combat. Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing with bolt action. It's not a game where you have a character that's just a monster in close combat. No, these are just regular men fighting in combat. And combat in bolt action is quite simple. Like, pretty much it's a roll off. Whoever gets the most wins. That's it. Done.
Yeah.
Right. There's a couple things like Fnatic where they don't get wiped out until the last man and stuff like that, right? But yeah, I mean, you got the right idea with your army. You're really grasping the whole aspect of their rules, and you're obviously, I've never even thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been playing for the last 4 years now, and that's never really kind of come up with anybody. Like, you always see SMGs.
Yeah.
So, but no, it's good. It's a good topic to talk about. Good topic to, get other people's thoughts on.
Well, that's kind of the thing, I guess, like out there for my other, my fellow Yankee players, do you guys feel the same? Do you build your squads around being able to take tough fighters? Do you just run regular infantry squads and just say, forget the tough fighter, we're just going max as many rifles as you can get? Because, I'll be honest, just, regular squads are still really good. They're not bad at all. And a regular squad as is, if you go 10 man with the one bar, you're still looking at 105. So, it depends really where you want to sink your points. I always try and start off with big full squads and vets, and if I'm starting to squeeze and pinch pennies, then the squads aren't 12 men anymore, they're 10, and now they're not vets anymore, they're regular. And
and you're also looking at full strength, right, compared to not.
Yeah.
So
I've never ran full strength before yet.
I have with a lot of my units, but honestly, I think, and even myself, I'm as guilty as anybody else. I think most people just forget about it, right? Like, they forget the full strength rule, but it kind of is what it is, because usually you get shot and it's done anyways. So you lose one guy and that's it. It's over, right? But no, it's a good question, definitely, of like SMG or not,
Yeah.
And of course it varies from different army to army. Is it good for this army or not? Sometimes, like, you're figuring out, okay, well, you know what? I don't think it's worth it, right? And then myself, I think it is worth it, So
yeah.
But again, we've had some examples here of nations and armies that there is a bit of a difference on what's better. Is it worth taking SMG? Is it not? Is there some weird options, like my French, for example? Stuff like that. So, and usually the point costs for the weapons is the same all around, really. A rifle's a rifle. So, but yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot other weapons like that we'll probably touch base on at some point and kind of look and talk more tactics for that kind of stuff. You know, it's the same thing with my French. They have these VB launchers, they're grenade launchers, you know, to put on the end of the rifles. They're 20 points. To me, it's a small template that you're firing. Yeah, they're good for popping smoke and stuff, but I don't know. I don't find them worth it because it just makes the unit super, super expensive. So,
yeah, 20 points is a big chunk.
well, that's like an LMG pretty much.
Yeah.
So, but they're one of the armies that has the option to do it. So, but yeah, I guess going on too with like other units and costs and stuff.
Oh yes, this one really grinds my gears.
And this one kind of ties in to the SMG as well a little bit, just like I mentioned with the Soviet SMG team. Like, you're looking at transports, and you know, you have armored transports and you have soft skin transports, you know, the 6 to the 7 plus, usually the armaments, you know, a couple of machine guns and stuff like that. But again, like, are they point efficient? Are they too much? Are they just right? You know,
Yeah.
like, you're finding that they are expensive, I believe.
Yeah. Well, they are, right? It's kind of a weird spot, right? Like, my biggest issue, so, you know, I have a half track. It's very dear to me. I like running it. It's cool. It's nice that it has the weapon options that it does. Not like I actually take any of the MMGs. I just let it drive around with the one HMG it's got, and kind of cruise and shoot that. But it's just running a regular half track. It's 99 points, which is, I don't know, to me that's ridiculous. Like, that thing, I don't know. It's just damage value's got the 7 plus. Armored carrier can take up to 12 guys. Now, the bonus of being able to take up to 12 people or 12 different, you know, infantry is nice, but it's still 99 points. To me, it seems super expensive for what it does, when especially you're comparing it to a Jeep, right? Like, a Jeep regular one, I want to see is 21 points. Let me see if it's 21 points for a regular Jeep. No weapons, just cruise around. And it's just like,
But
wow, man.
but how much can a Jeep hold?
Jeep can only hold 3.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not comparing apples to apples. See if I got another.
So
thing I can
like
do
in this British book, they have like a Bren carrier,
Yeah.
right? And it's an armored carrier as well. And at veteran, it's 72 points, and regular, which is probably what most people would take, is 60 points.
Yeah.
But it only carries 5 men, and you can add a pintle-mounted LMG for 10 points. So just to give you, you know, an idea
Yeah.
of what another transport is. Yes, it carries less, and it also has different options for different weaponries and stuff on it, and then it has a special rule for turning on spot. So that one is, I think, is meant for carrying like more elite, smaller units, right? So
For sure. Like even comparable 2.5 ton truck, it's still soft skin damage, 6 plus, but you can upgrade it with the MMG, and you can upgrade the MMG to a HMG. It's only 76 points, and you can take 18 men in that thing. So it's like, I don't know, like, comparable wise, is the half track worth 99 points?
yeah, see,
I feel it's a little high.
so here's 2 other examples. A priest kangaroo.
Yeah.
So it's actually a light tank, but it's in the transport section. So it's an 8 plus. Its regular point cost is 87 points.
That's bonkers.
It carries up to 11 men, and you can add an MMG at 10 points for, so it becomes 97 points. So there's that, right? And then they have another one. It's a Ram Kangaroo. It's a 9+, 11 men, but now we're getting up into like the 127 points for a regular transport like that. So, but let me take a look here. The Germans.
Because even the M3 scout car, right? Like it's a still 7+ armored car, can only transport up to 8 men, and it still has an HMG, and a regular one's only 86 points. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, yours seems to be a little bit pricier than most. Because like I'm looking at a Hanomeg, which is the German half track, right? Yeah. It's pretty much the same idea as your American one. It's 89 points for a regular. One pintle mounted MMG covering the forward arc. It's a 7+ armored carrier, up to 12 men, and it's open topped like most of these carriers are anyways. So it's slightly cheaper.
Is that the difference though? Maybe just because the American stuff has HMGs?
Probably. And how many does it say how many pinted mounted MMGs or whatever you can take? Like, is there more options to take more?
For the half track, you can take 3 more. The armored half track, you can take 3 more. For the scout car, you can take 2 more.
Yeah, but you're paying extra points for that anyways, so...
Yeah, like, if you go...
I think the HMG is what's doing it.
HMG is probably the biggest reason. Like, I know that half track, if you go balls out, right? And let's go crazy. Let's add the 3 MMGs, one for left, right, and rear arc, to the total value. And save everything. It's 144 points for that half track. And like we just talked about, that's my veteran squad of infantry with 2 bars and 8 rifles. Right? Like that's a big chunk of points. That's crazy. So to me, that just seems like that's insane.
I would never upgrade it fully like that ever.
No, it's too crazy.
Like if it has an HMG already.
Yeah, it has one.
That's what it starts with, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So here's one of the reasons why it could be a little bit pricier too. So an HMG is considered a heavy weapon. So it does have a penetrate of 1+. So it can technically damage other vehicles, right? So like if you were to shoot against my Hanomeg, you can damage it with that +1. Whereas if I'm shooting at you, like I'm gonna pin you pretty much. Right? So it's definitely that heavy machine gun definitely takes place. So it's 3 shots with 1+ to your pen, which can do some damage to lighter vehicles. So that's probably why it's there. That extra cost is there.
Yeah.
But is there other options? See, and here's the thing. Here's the problem with these lighter soft skin, lighter armored carriers. They're just as fragile as tanks, right? Like it's one shot and they're taken out. So I mean that's 99 points, if not more, gone just like that. Plus it's going to do damage to whatever's inside that unit. Whereas like your veterans, if they're running up the board at 12 inches, taking cover, they probably have a better chance of survival being on foot like that.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's kind of the thing. It's definitely looking like that way. it seems, I don't know, like maybe the half track's not the best. Maybe looking at those 2.5 ton trucks or running Jeeps for smaller teams, because Jeeps cheap as dirt. It might be.
I've seen guys do that. I've seen guys do that where they have Jeeps or Kuba wagons, which is pretty much a similar thing, and they'll drive up a bazooka team or they'll drive up a flamer team.
Yeah,
and they just zip, right? And next you know it, they pop out and roast something or take out a tank or something like that. So
yeah, because lately I've been trying to test out the half track with the engineer squad, the flamethrower. I found some really good utility the last few games that I played with the flamethrower in a squad like that. It's definitely kept other tanks and other units honest.
Yeah,
so to speak,
sure.
right? Like they know, hey, if you're getting close, it's probably time to bug out. Like,
yeah, usually like the way you played it the last time we played, where you had it on the flank, and that engineer squad and the half track zipped up, right at the factory there. Remember that that factory where you got my unit? You play that right. Like you kept it away from my tank. So I didn't have sight, and I had other units to worry about besides your Hanomeg, or sorry, your half track. So it was able to kind of get up there just untouched, right? I didn't have a Panzerschreck or Faust to go against it because my army doesn't have those yet in that theater that I took, the selector I took. So yeah, you played it right, and you kept it at the back so it wouldn't, afterwards, after you unloaded your payload of engineers coming out, they did their job with the flamer. Like he paid for himself like 3 times over for sure.
Yeah, and I remember he never ran out of ammo either.
Yeah, I remember that. Don't remind me.
Awesome.
But yeah, just firing down with that machine gun and just getting a couple pins and wounding guys. That might make it worth it, right?
Yeah.
I think it's something that you just have to keep on trying and then finally make that decision of, you know what, yes, no, right? So, but it could, who knows? It could make or break you for point wise too. Like,
well, I guess the one main point is: it ever worth even taking an inexperienced vehicle?
In my eyes, no.
Because that's kind of where I'm leading it. It's unless it's regular, it ain't worth it.
So, inexperienced vehicles. So let's say, for example, we're playing and prep bombardment hits, and I roll a 5 on your vehicle. That's 2 pins right off the bat.
Yeah.
You're now looking at having to roll, what, 6 or under? Because you start with 8.
Which isn't great.
More than likely, you're going to fail, and your vehicle is going to go backwards and go down, and the units inside are going to be done. Like, they'll take the pin as well, and they'll be stuck there too, right? Not to mention you're now further away from your idea that you had for that unit.
Yeah.
So that happened to me against Jason. We were playing the Swarm, the Stalingrad missions, and I had some boats, and they were inexperienced. And I had my boat, I had my commander, and I had a unit in the boat. I did the order of snap to action, and I activated the boat first. I failed his order. He couldn't move to shore. I couldn't disembark. Done. And it was because he was inexperienced, even with the morale boost from the commander.
Oh,
so
gross. Yeah.
So I've learned my lesson with that, in the early stages of inexperienced vehicles is it's not good, and especially for a tank, right? I know we're talking about transports. Well, even transports, inexperienced like shooting, it's just not worth it. Especially if you have something that can do damage like an HMG, right? It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Because you automatically need 4s, and more than likely you're going to already be at 7s, right? Range, probably in cover, you moved, So that's that's a good one too. Hey, or maybe you guys disagree with me. Maybe you guys do take a lot of inexperienced transports or vehicles and just go along with it. You know what I mean?
Well, that too, yeah. Do you guys think transports are worth their point costs? Do they help you enough for the mobility in a game, or do you agree that they're too much and you leave them at home?
Yeah,
definitely let us know. It's interesting. You can read a lot online with the forums and all the different pages out there on Facebook, and there seems to be a very big kind of divide on transports and stuff as well.
mm-hmm.
So it's just hearing from you. What's your experience? How's your local? Do you guys use a lot of transports? Do you not? It's all stuff that we want to know. So
No, definitely, for sure. And it's like that with a lot of units. Everybody has their choice picks of units that they like to take in armies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, depending on which army you're playing, you'll have specifics. Hey, if I was able to take flamethrowers in my French armies, I probably would. But they don't have that option, so gotta play with their style. Like my French army is a very much inexperienced army, mass infantry, and a lot of them supported by a decent amount of artillery. So when I'm looking down the scopes and I'm able to hit you with a medium artillery piece with a direct shot, I'm having a good day. I'll probably miss, but I'm having a good day, So each army's different. And who knows, maybe in those armies you guys play, maybe you have some pretty decently priced transports. So it's a good one. But carrying on, I guess, we got some more units to talk about. The infamous mortar teams.
Yes.
And the infamous sniper teams. So, these two units, I see time and time again, they literally are hit or miss. Right?
Yeah.
Let's start with some sniper teams first, I guess.
Sure.
So, I take snipers. I know you've taken snipers.
Oh, yes.
I've seen a lot of guys take snipers. And
they're very good.
They can be very good with the rules that they have, yes. I know there's some players that kind of hate the way their rules are, but game mechanic wise, if they perform, they perform. Like they do really well. Scoping in at the 36-inch range and picking a target. Their ability to not be swayed by the pretty much terrain modifiers. So you're pretty much hitting on a 3+. And then when you do hit, you are wounding, of course, at normal, whatever you need to wound the unit or piece or model, whatever it is. And then you have the possibility of, not possibility, but when you do wound, you actually get to pick your target.
Yeah, that's the best.
So that's the kicker there for the sniper team. And of course, using the sniper team, you're trying to target mortar teams, you're trying to target MMG teams, commanders, special weapons and units, or even NCOs, right? Can they be pricey? I think they're pretty good right where their price is.
Yeah, for what they cost and what they do, like a veteran sniper team, for me anyways, is 67 points.
Yeah.
And I don't see a reason why not to take them as veterans. I think you're missing out if you don't take them as vets. So
Yeah, see, and I've taken as both as vets and regulars. Sometimes I have to, I trim points and they get trimmed. But being veterans makes them pretty durable, for sure. So not only are they, hard to take out, but again, they're a small team already. And then on top of that, you're not going to just deploy them out in the open. You're putting them in some cover and probably some kind of ruin hard cover. So automatically they're going to need, a -3 to hit you, right? So you're already sitting probably, either 6 or 7s right off the bat. Just don't place them in sight of the enemy sniper. So, are they worth it? For sure. In my eyes, for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Do they always perform? No, of course not. It's a dice game. They do. They don't. They don't. Usually, when they do, though, they make a difference. There are some armies that are able to take multiple sniper teams, and there's some armies that actually have some rules with sniper teams as well. Something about going into ambush. I think the Finns might have that, where they automatically can start in ambush. But ultimately, there's such low points that it's kind of an auto include.
Yeah, well, I know myself, the last 2 games we've played, I've been able to make really good use of the sniper being able to target LMGs.
Oh, exactly.
And I don't have LMGs in my squad, but being able to actually reduce the firing power of a squad across the board, it's huge. I definitely like using them. I think every time I've used them, I've been able to kill something. Yeah. I even caught one of the local guys there. He poked his CO just around the corner in a certain way and didn't quite remember where my sniper was. And I was able to draw a bead and snipe him out from across the table. And he's like, oh, no. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, it happens.
This game just got good, right?
Yeah,
it was fun.
That does happen. And I've had it happen with myself where, I've placed something or I forgot to shoot or even realize where his sniper was. And it's like, I'm taking your sniper out.
You're like, oh no.
So yeah, 2 thumbs up for me. And I know Bill's in the same boat. So
yeah, I like snipers. They're great. I think point cost, they're really, really good. I take mine as veterans all the time. I don't know if it's redundant because being a small team with the 2, you're already getting the modifiers, but I like to lean on them in game, so I always try and bump them up and make them as hard to kill. And I found most of the time, unless someone has a sniper as well, guys just ignore them. They just don't bother.
Yeah.
So, is that the best way? I don't know. Maybe.
I always see those snipers as a threat, right? So I mean, if I can take them out sniping, or if I can fire an MMG at them and at least maybe take out one of their guys and force them to do a test to see if they break, because now they're reduced to half. Yeah. There's a chance that maybe they run, right? So going as a vet is probably it is the best, I would say, because not only is your leadership morale is higher, you are tougher to wound, of course. You might want to, depending if the opponent has artillery, you might want to put them in a building. So now it's a 6+ to wound, So in that aspect, veterans for sure. But if you're trying to save points, maybe. But more than likely, you have something else you can trim points on. So, yeah, no, for sure, it's a good unit. It's always a mainstay in almost every one of my armies. So I have noticed some guys, though, they'll take, instead of a sniper, they'll take an anti-tank team, like a rifle team. And the reason they do that is because they get a bonus to the pen roll.
I see.
Right, so they'll actually use that as a sniper instead. They just don't have the sniper abilities, right? So, but regardless, it's different units for different jobs on the tabletop that you want them to do.
Yeah.
So, but we have the almighty Mortar as well.
Yes. This is one. This is one I ask myself: is a mortar a must-take? Because I really think the mortar will keep your opponent honest. I don't think it gives them a chance to sit there and really capitalize on making those machine gun nests across the board. Like, let's be real: if you're stagnant and you're not moving, and the guy's got a medium mortar, you're probably dead.
Yeah.
He's gonna probably sight in on you, and let's be real, if you're moving, you're not doing as well with your squads. So it's, I don't know, it's for what they cost, I think they're super worth it.
So I think the thing with mortars is I think sometimes they are underrated for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, it doesn't sound great because you need visibility and it's always a 6. But you know what? I've dropped more 6s in games like that with a mortar team, and they've done some work at critical points. And like you said, Bill, like keeping the opponent honest pretty much, especially if they're just hunkered down and they've got units that you know won't be able to fire if they move.
Yeah.
That's a big thing to look at, right? Like, so as an example, my French army has an MMG team, has a mortar team, medium mortar team, and has 2 medium howitzers in it. Those howitzers, like, they're not supposed to be moving. So I'm staying put. Now, if my opponent's, reaching over with a mortar and hitting my teams, if he rolls that 6, they're dead.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of my firepower away. Because when I do the same to you with a howitzer, it's a bigger splash, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing. Like, the thing with a mortar is it's cheap enough. Even if you go regular with that team. Now, guys are like, don't take them as regular. The experience is good enough. They don't hit very well. Blah 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 blah. Okay, sure, but let's go regular and let's spend another 10 points and get a spotter. Well, that spotter is now going to be checking out things and using his sight to fire that mortar. So I could place the mortar team behind a building and use the sight of the spotter with a chance that a sniper might take him out. But hey, if a sniper takes him out, then that's one less thing that sniper's going to shoot out that might actually be more important. But I've had some good experiences where spotters checking things out, and just launch that mortar every turn. And if your opponent's not moving, it just gets easier and easier, and eventually you're going to land that hit, and that's going to get knocked out. So
yep. Well, I know it's been used against me a few times, and it's one of the things where I don't want to keep moving with my my infantry squads, but he definitely forces me to do that. And thankfully I'm able to move and fire without any issues, but it's still a pain. I don't like having a mortar on the opposite side bombing on me.
It forces you, right? It forces you to move. And if you don't, then you know what happens.
Yeah, and you know
Now,
me, I don't like getting forced to do nothing.
and it's worse when you're forcing against a fixed team or an artillery team. Well, artillery teams aren't going to be moving very fast, so maybe they get pushed into a position where, oh, now my other units can see them, or my tank has a bead on them now, or my anti-tank gun has a bead on it now, that kind of thing, right? So
Yeah.
there's that. So yeah, again, I always take mortars in my armies, mostly mediums, except for my Soviets. I actually take a heavy mortar, so it's a big splash when they hit.
Yeah, and those are the ones that need a tow.
No,
Or is it the artillery?
It's artillery that needs tows.
All right,
Mortars can still move around. It's a heavy mortar, right? So pretty much the blast is bigger and does more pen and pins as well. And that's another thing too, is the multiple pins. Just having that alone really affects the opponent's unit. So there's that with mortars, which is it's a bonus, D2, D3 pin markers extra or whatever. But there's also one thing about mortars as well that you don't really see, at least not in our community. You don't see it happen too often. And also you don't see certain ones being used. So light mortars, usually you can move around with them and fire them, and they're usually within units. So you can throw small little templates at guys and add extra pins and do a little bit of damage. But smoke, you don't see it very often. So mortars can fire smoke, and it pretty much creates this dense terrain. And that dense terrain, that smoke, can either like disappear, or it actually moves along the battlefield. So when that smoke hits and lands and it's blocking your line of sight, kind of messes you over a little bit. Or if, like, I've seen this tactic with the Japanese army, because they have light mortars in each squad, they fire smoke, and next you know it, they have this big line of smoke that's blocking the line of sight to the enemy, and they're bull rushing, banzai charging across the field with these 15-man squads, or whatever their size is, 15 or 12, I think it's 15, but they're running across the field with all these infantry trying to get into combat with you, and the smoke is blocking your line of sight for shooting. So it's little things like that you got to look at, and weigh in what's worth it in your opinion. Do you like them? Do you not like them? Do you hate the chance of you needing a 6 all the time? And then there's also the fact too, mortars firing against buildings because of the indirect shot. It actually ends up possibly plummeting through, the rooftop down to each level until the round actually explodes.
Crazy.
So, in my opinion, against buildings, not so great. Against open-topped vehicles or vehicles that pop their pintle mounted, pop their button on top, you get that extra bonus, right? So
yeah,
and there's an opportunity where you roll a whole bunch of 6s, and next you know it, you've taken out a large tank.
Yeah, it's the reason why I don't run a pintle-mounted MMG on my Sherman anymore. Because forget that shit. I don't want it to get blown up because it happened. And I went, never again.
Yeah, I've used the pintle mounted on my tanks before too, and it was actually a different scenario where I actually lost my tank, because when you open that, when you pop, you actually are open topped for the rest of that turn, not just that moment, that turn. Yeah. So if like, and this is what happened to me, is I actually got assaulted, and because I was open topped and he damaged me, it killed me. There was nothing. It's just, I'm dead, right? So, but mortars, yes, in my opinion. Be it, light, medium, or heavy, depending on your army, depending if you have those options and or what your army is good with, right? So, some armies have use for light mortars more than others. So I don't know if the Americans have options for that. They probably do.
They have light and medium.
Okay. Yeah. I tend to go with like howitzers for like the bigger, heavier stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when I first was playing Soviets, it was like, yeah, I'm getting a heavy mortar, and I fit it into my army, and it worked pretty good. So, but if you are going bigger, you definitely want to go as regular, and you definitely want to take a spotter.
Yeah, spotters seem to be the way for sure.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that was some pretty good topics there, and talk about different units and equipment.
Definitely.
So hoping you guys will enjoy or did enjoy this episode. We'll probably have a lot more like this coming down the pipe, just breaking down some tactical talk and whatnot for bolt action. And hopefully we'll get some feedback from you guys too, what you guys might want to hear, or if you have ideas of topics that you want to discuss or bounce off of us, that kind of idea.
Yeah.
And of course, always share, hopefully you guys share some pictures of your armies and painting and hobby and even tables. It's always awesome to see terrain for bolt action. So, but anything else, Bill? You
No, I think that's about it. I think we hit it all.
Right on.
Which is always good. So
cool. But yeah, don't forget to check out our Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and then whatever you're pretty much listening to us for our podcast, any of those other platforms. And hopefully we will catch you guys on the next one.
Yeah.
Trident Wargaming. Build it, paint it, play it.